Alright guys, welcome back for another video of HAIKYU Fly High. Now today's topic is going to be morale, and it's specifically in the context of SP Bokuto, just to have an idea of how likely it is for him to fully stack up his unity buff, and if he's not able to fully stack it up, then roughly what kind of buff are we expecting to get from his skill 1, okay? At the end of the video, I will also show you guys a few different team builds using characters which obviously can give high morale, but also sometimes I'll be actually trading off some morale boosting character for a stronger one which has better synergy. And once again, just to give you guys a few variations so you know roughly what to expect when it comes to team building with SP Bokuto. Okay, so first of all, I want to look at how much morale you can actually get in a match, and there's two ways of doing that. One is basically looking at how much you would be getting just through kind of playing the match naturally, and then the second thing is looking at the different characters you can actually put on your team and how much morale they will be giving you. Okay, so how much are you expecting to get just from naturally playing the match? So in total, I think you can get 620, and that is basically based on the assumption that every single rally is on average full net crossing. And what that basically means is when you have a rally with full net crossing, the ball will be on your side twice, and every single time when it's on your side, there should be 4 touches, right? There should be a block, receive, set, and spike. So on average, I'm going to assume 8 touches per rally, which then basically means every single touch should give you 6 morale. So that's 48 per rally, and then you'll be playing 9 rallies in a match, which is in the first to 5. So that gives you 432 morale. And then obviously as you go all the way up to the first to 5 points, you're kind of expecting vast majority of the time 4 rallies to be won, 4 rallies to be lost, and that in total will also give you another 160 morale. And then if you actually have the cheerleader completely leveled up, when you first enter the match, you should be getting 18 there. And then the last assumption I'm also making is that Bokuto should be playing his own morale potential set, and he will only be spiking twice in a match, so that's going to give you another additional 10 morale. Okay, so what I'm expecting for an SP Bokuto team is that you should be getting like 620 morale, which are independent of what kind of team build you have. Okay, then now let's move on to the actual characters who are able to give morale. Now I haven't listed every single character out there. I have only went through the UR and the SP one, and that's because I personally like, even though there's some SSR character which can give morale, as a whole they're just a little weaker than SP and also UR characters. So I just feel like it's not worth the trade-off. Yes, you might be able to get a few extra morale, which might translate to an extra, I don't know, 2% buff for your whole team, but that's a massive cost on the fact that you have to play a character which is only a SSR rarity, okay? So that's kind of why I have only went through all of the SP and UR characters instead. Now, starting off, we have SP Bokuto himself. Now, for his own kit, basically he will be getting 4 unity stacks at the end of each rally, and also he will be getting 20 morale from his skill 3 when you exit Awakening. Now you will only be exit Awakening twice in a match because that's basically the mechanics they have. It takes you 3 turns just to build up. So in a match to first to 5 points, you can literally only do it twice. So the total amount of morale that SP Bokuto can actually obtain is going to be obviously 4 times 40 times 8, because it's at the end of each rally. Okay, you are not going to have the luxury of the 9th rally because you will have already won the match by then. So it'll be 40 times 8, which is 320, then plus 20 times 2. So in total, that's going to be 360 team morale from SP Bokuto. Then if we look at Akashi, this requires skill resonance 2, but basically what's going to happen is that you'll be obtaining 40 at the end of each rally. So like I said, once again, there's only going to be 8 rallies where this end, because by the end of 9th rally, you have already won the match or lost the match. So that's only going to be 320 from Akashi, okay? Then from Aone himself, he's going to get a 15 morale when he do an ult block. Now he does have a kit, so his skill 3, which basically will shorten his cooldown for his block ultimate. It starts off at I think 12 cooldown, then eventually can get down to about 8 cooldown, and then eventually if you further buff it up, it can go as low as 4 cooldown. Okay, so I'm just going to take the average value there, which is going to be 8 cooldown, and then when you actually play only, I'm going to expect 6 rallies up front. Okay, so basically obviously there are 3 positions up front where he can be rotated to, and I'm expecting you win 1 rally and lose 1 rally in each one of those positions up front. So there should be 6 rallies up front. That basically means there will be 24 net crossings. So that also translate to roughly about, so 24 net crossing, 24 net crossings based on, once again, I'm assuming each rally on average is 4 net crossing. Okay, so that basically means there should be 24 net crossings where owner is up front. So that basically translates to 3 ult, and then you plus the first ult where you start off the match with no cooldown. So that in total should be roughly around 4 ult I'm expecting our owner to be able to do on average, and that would then translate to 60 morale points. Okay, in reality you might be able to do a bit more if the match drags on a bit longer, so therefore you have more time, more play time doing the section where owner is ult reduction cooldown has been reduced to only 4 net crossing, but I'm just going to take an average number to say it's going to be only 4 ultimate attack, and therefore that's 60 morale. Okay. Next up, we have the Beach Trio Bond. So this is not a character by itself, but it's when you actually play Bokuto Action and Aone together. When this happens, you're going to get 20 at the start of each rally. And because this is at the start of each rally, I can now actually include the 9th rally. So that's kind of why it's going to be 20 times 9, which is going to be 180 here. Next up, it's going to be Iwazuyumi, and that's going to be his skill returns 2 only as well. So he would actually be getting 20 morale whenever he receives. Now, I'm going to assume, once again, in a rally, which is 4 net crossings, he should be receiving twice because he does have the ability to reduce the cooldown of his receive. So per rally, I'm expecting 2 receive. So that's going to be 40 morale per rally. And then I'm also going to assume, once again, he's at the back for 6 rallies. Okay, so there's 3 positions at the back. And I'm assuming for each one of those positions he is rotated to, you will be winning 1 rally, losing 1 rally. So therefore, in total, 6 rally. So that's 40 times 6, which is going to be 240 morale. Next up is going to be SP Tendo. So for SP Tendo, he can get 10 morale whenever your ally ult twice. Okay. Now once again, for this one, I am going to assume there'll be 9 rallies in total, and in those 9 rallies, on average, it's going to be 4 net crossings. And what that basically means is that in those 9 rallies, what you're kind of expecting is that you'll be expecting 18 of each of the actions. So 18 spikes, 18 receive, 18 set, and also 18 block. Now, when you're actually ulting, when you're actually doing a spike, it's very likely for them to be always be an ult. That's just normally how you play around, right? You bring 3 spikers so you can rotate them around. So I'm expecting all of the spikes to be ult. So that's 18 ult spikes. However, for the receive, set, and block, I'm going to assume an average of cooldown of about 6 net crossing each. So what that basically means is that you would only be able to get an ult every 3 times. Or every 3 actions. So the 18 receive, set, or block touches would basically then translate to only 6 ult each for each one of those actions. So in total, that is going to give you 36 ultimate attack, and obviously you actually need to have an ally ult twice in order to do that. So on average, you're going to assume only 18 ultimate attack. Okay, so that's going to be, so you will be assuming 36 ultimate attack, and therefore you'll be able to trigger this 18 times, just on average. Okay, this is only going to be an estimate. So this would be then giving you 180 team morale points. Next up, we have Komori. Komori can get 10 morale whenever he is doing the setting, and I'm just going to assume once per rally, okay, just for simplicity. So that's going to be 19 morale. Then we have Kongen Gawa, which is able to do 6 morale when he's using skill 2. So that's his own setting skill. It has a cooldown of 6 net crossing as well. So once again, I'm just going to assume once per rally. So that's going to be 54. And then we have Sugawaru. He have a cooldown of 6 for his surfing skill, and he's able to give a team morale of 10. But in reality, I don't know. I feel like it's quite difficult for him to surf back to back. So that's kind of why I'm only going to give him 10 morale here. Okay, so that's basically a quick breakdown of how much morale you are estimated to get. Obviously, depending on how the match play out, if it's like a longer rally or shorter rally, the numbers are going to change. But those are just, for me, I feel like those are good estimations of how much you're expecting to get. And now, with all of that being said, if you actually add up the numbers, so what you're going to realize is that if I actually play the Beach Trio together, so that's basically the 3 characters individually and their bond. In total, I'm able to get 920 morale. Okay, so 920 plus that 620 we are expected to get from natural regen. In total, that's only going to be around 1500s. Okay, so that's only going to give you 150 stacks. So this is basically roughly what you're expecting to get if you actually play just the Beach Trio by itself, which is obviously not able to fully stack it up. Now, even if you then play the next character who is able to give the most amount of morale, so that's Iwatsume. Even when you do all of this together, you are still only gonna get about 1800 morale as well. Okay, so that's only 180 stats, so you're still not able to fully max out. The only way you'll be able to max it out is actually you have to go all the way down to here, and you have to add up all of those numbers and then plus the 620 from here. That in total can give you 2040 morale. Okay, so you can see here I'll have to literally go all the way down to the first 6 characters. So ignore the bond here, okay, because that's no character. But otherwise, I literally have to play 6 characters in total just to give me the maximum amount of stacks for Unity. And that's kind of why I said it's going to be, you're kind of requiring just one exact team composition in order for this to happen. And on your team, which is composed of 7 players, there is going to be one free slot that you are freely able to choose whoever you want. However, in this case, there's only going to be 2 characters who are capable of doing that, because if you actually take a look at all of the characters available here, what you're going to realize is that other than Bokuto, who you can literally only spike twice in a match, otherwise, none of the other characters are actually built for spiking. So that basically means on your last member of the team, you have to play someone who is literally able to spike every single time. Okay, even like a net crossing of 4 cooldown is not going to be good enough. You literally have to have a net crossing, a cooldown of 2 net crossing or lower, and that basically means you have to be either version of Yushijima or you have to be around Juro. Okay, and that's kind of why I say if you really want to max stack up the team morale unity buff from SP Bokuto, there's only really one type of team that you can play, which is exactly the characters I'm going to highlight here, plus either Aaron Jiro or Yushijima. Now, obviously, this is going to be by an estimate. If you actually have like longer rallies, you might be able to deal with omitting one of those characters. But if you actually want to do a consistency, this is kind of the only team I think can actually do it. All right. Okay, now let me show you some team building examples. So team number 1 is basically the team I just mentioned on my spreadsheet. It's capable of getting 2040 morale. And basically it's going to be those 6 characters who are able to generate the most morale plus SP Yujima, who is there to spike every single turn, other than the times when your Bokuto can actually use his ult. Okay. Now one thing I just realized as I was doing this is I was thinking like, how exactly would you actually get Komori onto the court? Like what position would you sub it out? The only way I can see this working will be subbing out the mid blockers, but then I feel like there could be some complication in terms of whether or not Tendo's skill would still work. For example, that extra morale when you basically ult twice. I'm not sure whether or not that will work when Tendo's actually being subbed off by the liberal. So that's potentially something to be tested. And if that doesn't work, then unfortunately you won't actually be able to play Komori in the team. So this would I think subtract 90 from this, so you will only be able to get 1950 morale, which is just slightly less than the maximum amount of stacks you're able to get, but still very decent. And if some of the rallies get a bit longer, you can still hit the maximum number of stacks of Unity. Okay, so that's going to be the first team, which is basically trying to focus on maximizing as much morale as possible. Now there are going to be a few problems with this team build, however. One is just like I said, I'm not too sure exactly how is the liberal substitution going to work on this team, to be honest. Then the second thing, which is a bit annoying, is that Tendo really want to have high amount of awareness whenever he block, because he actually block using awareness rather than reflex. However, Akashi only give that awareness buff when Tendo is when the person is actually set when the person is actually spiking after his set. So basically he only gives that awareness buff when he's setting. And what that basically means is that when you actually use Tendo to block, he can't actually benefit from the huge amount of awareness from Akashi. Okay, so that's basically not very ideal. And when Tendo doesn't crit, it's actually going to be very, very weak. So that's all the things to bear in mind. So as a result, there's an alternative you can make, which is basically sacrifice Yushijima and Tendo for actually the Camel duo. Okay, so Hirogami and Korra. Now the thing with this is obviously you will lose out on some of the morale that Tendo is able to obtain. So this one you can only realistically get about 1870 morale. However, the benefit of this is arguably Hirogami and Korra are a lot stronger than Tendo and Yushijima in my opinion. So that's something you can bear in mind. And then the other thing is that even if you liberal cannot be coming on, Korra can actually essentially spam his receive as well. So basically this is also going to be very strong even if you are not able to bring your Komori or liberal onto the court. Now, there is also going to be a bit of a risk with this team, which is that even with Hiragami plus Korai, your Korai's spiking cooldown will only get down to 4 net crossing, so that's still not quite the same as being able to spike every single turn. So in those kind of cases, you may have to be prepared to use your Iwatayumi to spike every now and then, or maybe using SP Bokuto's normal spike, okay? So depending on how the match play out, for example, if you get a surface, etc., Korai might be able to spike again. However, in other scenarios, then that may not be the case. So this is also another risk you have to bear in mind. But this one can also get a huge amount of morale, and I personally actually think this is stronger than my first team. Even though it's less morale, but the team as a whole is just a bit more all-rounded and actually stronger. Then the last variation of team I'm going to show you is only capable of getting 1550, and that's because rather than actually playing the beach trio, I'm actually going to get rid of Akashi altogether. Now, the thing with this is realizing the fact that, like I said, Tendo really need that high crit in order to make sure his block also is able to crit, so a high awareness to make sure that his block is also able to crit, and also you are already playing Iwazayumi and Yushijima on the team, and all of them are obviously the cultural festival trio, etc. So therefore have all very good synergy with SP Okawa. So for this formation, what you're actually going to do is you swap the setter from Akashi to Okawa instead. Now obviously you'll be losing that additional amount of morale that Akashi is able to generate, both from himself but also from the beach trio, deployment bonds, etc. However, Okawa is now actually able to complement Tendo, and also because Okawa is facing diagonal to Yushijima, Yushijima is also going to be spiking a lot harder as well. So this one, compared to the first team I mentioned, have a weaker morale, but arguably much better suitability with Tendo, compatibility with Tendo, and also you will be able to get a stronger spike as a result as well, okay? So that's also a very viable team that I would recommend. Although for this one, you could argue the focus now is more kind of the culture festival characters rather than SP Bokuto. But once again, SP Bokuto and SP Ushijima to me are always a very good pairing because they literally kind of complement each other in terms of their spiking frequency, etc. But yeah, so those are gonna be all of the SP Bokuto teams that I would recommend with the focus of trying to actually maximize team morale, etc. Let me know what you guys think, and if you are planning to use SP Bokuto, what team are you going for?